Hey everybody, welcome to The Bottom Line. My name is Gareth Soloway and I'm joined by pro trader Drew. How you doing, buddy?
Doing great today. Very happy to be here with you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have an action-packed show today. Lots going on. I mean, heck, the markets are doing their crazy stuff. Another down day on Wall Street. We had this crazy CrowdStrike issue where airlines were down and banks and all this other stuff. I mean, it really makes you think. We were talking about this on the Apex Live Day Trading Room, right? How it makes you think about how reliant we are on technology.
Yeah, and one of these things goes down, look at all the problems that are persisting from it. Airlines, delays, banks having some issues. Things can happen really fastly to where our lives change in an instant.
Yeah, absolutely. So in that term, let's go right into the charts because I know people love those charts, buddy. Let's see what we got. All right, so right in we go here. We're going to look at the SMH, and this is the one I'm focused on today, and I'll tell you why. Because what we're looking at is a chart of the SMH that now is quite a bit off of the highs, about 12%. We had the reversal engulfing candle, I've highlighted this multiple times because we've seen this, or I've never seen this pattern, bearish pattern formation in my career. Massive reversal here to the downside. So the question everyone's asking is, where will it bounce? I'm going to show you what I think. So what we're going to do here is we're going to zoom out on the chart, and we have to find a confluence of events, right? Confluence of factors. And so one of the things I was doing, and I always do this, I connect my pivot lows. So I take a major pivot low. Notice again, guys, if we talk about pivot lows, it's a down and an up. So down to a low and then up, and look at how it just continued going like that. So that tells me that is a pivot point on the charts. So what we do here is we say, okay, well, let's take a line from there, and we're going to connect it to this low pivot. So here we go. Let's do it right now as we drag it up. So what we can see here is this line comes to about 236. Okay, so that gives me an idea of where a support level could be, but one is not enough. You need 2 or 3 factors to make sure that you have a good support level for a bounce on the SMH. So then what do? Well, I look back at the chart here and I say, okay, well, if we take a line from this pivot high here, which was a major reversal, in fact, that was when NVIDIA topped out, and we draw that across, what do we get? We get a line that literally matches at that same point of interest. So now I have 2 factors. Another thing I do is I say just above that, there's a gap fill. So there's a gap fill just a tad above that, around 242. So now you're starting to get a bunch of things right in this zone, this 240, 235 zone on the SMH. And yes, that's still a little bit of a drop, but remember, a priority for an investor or trader is always finding the levels where you're going to be as sure as you can be, as much as we can be, that we're going to get a bounce. Last thing I want to show you, and then I'll kick it over to Drew, is that if we do a Fibonacci retrace and we take this low here, right, if we take this low pivot right here and we drag it to that high, where does this align? Look at this, guys. You got your 50% fib right in that same vicinity, somewhere between 240 and 236. So for me, I would expect this to come in right here, and then we should get some sort of bounce. So you're looking, again, still, I mean, in all fairness, you're still looking at potentially another $10 drop on the SMH. What do you think, Drew?
I think that's an amazing chart, and I'm going to just piggyback off of that. Go right over into Netflix with the same Fibonacci retrace. The earnings were posted yesterday, as you all saw. I went right at 4 o'clock to see what type of levels are we looking at. How is this chart going to move? And if you look in, zoom, you see what I did. Just like Gareth, I took the Fibonacci retrace, started it from this pivot low that occurred over here in April. I took it to the high that occurred just at the beginning of July. And what did we see? We go to after hours session. And you see that price went straight to right here, the 618.
Wow.
Retrace.
Right to 600.
Yep, right at that 600 level. I was thinking there might be a little bit of pierce there, but turns out it went down to $600 right on the dot. That Fibonacci 618 retrace is usually the strongest retrace. So expect a move once price moves into it with any velocity.
Amazing, amazing. That's so cool. I love showing people Fibonacci's because again, it's something that naturally occurs in nature over and over again, and people are always like, oh, that doesn't matter, but it actually does have an impact on us as humans. I know you've gotten into GAN a little bit, which is really interesting, and you've gotten into cycle work, which is interesting, astrology and stuff like that. And again, folks, you know, we are part of a bigger world here, and there are influences on us, and it can actually help us. And I always say to the people is that, you know, sure, you might not notice that it's an influence on you, but if you take 10 million investors, and even if it's a fractional that no one individually notices, it can have an impact when you multiply it out to that great an amount.
That's a good point.
So, interesting stuff. All right, follow me over here, guys. What we're going to do now is we're going to take a look at this next chart here. And I think what we're going to do is we got to look at Bitcoin, because I know you guys, a lot of you guys love your Bitcoin here, as do I. And what we're seeing is Bitcoin is starting to respond vertically here. So my guess is this is starting to be okay, money's being pulled out of the mega caps. It's coming out of the semiconductors. A lot of that money is saying, well, where do I go? Could I go to gold? Well, you could go to gold, but gold's getting hammered today. So where else is it going? It's going to Bitcoin. And what we know is, if you've been watching my game plans and trading the closes, we confirmed above that level right there. Once you confirm above it, it means this is major support now. And eventually, if you consolidate, you should start to move up. So we are starting to see that. We're trading around 66,000. Where is your key technical level of resistance where you're going to run into some resistance? It's just around 70, 71, 72,000. And so there still is some more upside on Bitcoin, but it certainly is getting in that direction. And that's, again, what the charts would go. All right, Drew, what do you got over there?
All right, I've got the chart of Tesla here, and it's intraday chart today on the 10-minute candles. What I'm looking at is looking at this top pivot up to the very next pivot, and look where we found today where price went up into, stopped, reversed, and came right back down. So you can see that these levels are very important, especially when you're coming off of a move. Number 3 is a very big move on a trend line. Whenever price comes into one of these trend lines with any velocity, we're going to be expecting a pullback. You can see that's exactly what's playing out right here. It's amazing that this happens every single day, but these are some of the techniques that just make things simple. We can all count to 3, we can all count to 7, 10, 14, whatever the numbers may be, but this just helps us narrow down these levels and makes trading a lot easier for us. Oftentimes there's so much data, so much information to digest. Just go to the charts, help yourself, help your mind, make the right trade. This is one of those that you could have made.
Beautiful, man, beautiful. All right, jumping over here, guys, take a look. Silver's getting hammered today, but look at where it went. And we actually bought this in Smart Money Commodities today because it went to what I call a retrace to the scene of the crime. What's a retrace to the scene of the crime? Well, you have a very clear channel, right? Highs and lows. It just keeps bobbing up and down, right? And so what we saw is it just kind of go down, up, down, up, down, up, down a little bit, and then it broke out. It broke out here, confirmed here, and then you got this consolidation. Now, that's usually bullish consolidation, but in this case, it failed. And look at what happens when a bull flag fails. You get a big sell-off to the downside. But I've been waiting for this because, again, what I know is that in general, charts have a tendency to retrace to the scene of the crime. What's the scene of the crime? Well, this trend line is the crime scene, right? This is the breakout line. So it broke out here. So when it retraces coming back to home base to check out what's going on there, that's where you buy it right there. So far, we're in the money, but I would expect a little bit more bounce on silver, at least in the near term. And really, if we flip over to gold real quickly as well, gold is also having a big down day here. So looking at gold right here, you can see big drop. This is an interesting one because gold closed above this key breakout level, but it didn't confirm. And this is another key educational point, is when you don't confirm above a level like here, the level, which is this line here, it's only minor support, meaning it's vulnerable to a break back below. When you confirm above support, well, which level did we just talk about? Let's go to Bitcoin. This level confirmed. All right, in fact, you retraced the very next day. But point is, the chance of upside is much greater when you confirm because this becomes major support. So minor support when you don't confirm, major support when you do. It does dictate price generally with a high probability of the time. All right, what do you got over there? Ooh, Walgreens.
All right, so we're going to go back into time just last week a little bit. I was going to show you a trade setup that I did take. Again, keeping with the same mantra, just keep it simple. What did I do here? I saw that WBA, Walgreens Boots Alliance, had a big drop down on this day. What did we do after that time frame? We had a time count develop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What happened after the 7th bar? We got a narrow body bar. What does that mean? That's just basically the chart telling you this is a major pivot point. Price hasn't decided which way it's going to go. Matter of fact, like a bottoming tail would have been a little bit better, but a doji tail right here is actually almost as powerful. So what did I do? At the close of the candle right here, price was at $10.79. I executed a trade, then sold it 2 days later at $11.63 for a gain of 84 cents a share. If you just had 1,000 shares there was $840 for you in 2 trading days on one simple move with this time count.
All right, very cool, man. That's awesome. So just flipping back over here to the S&P, right? So one of the things, and this will kind of be wrapping us up here. I think, Drew, you might have one more chart.
I got one more,
One more chart. So what I want to just show you is, listen, this is the S&P 500. We know this channel here. You could flip it up right here, and the channel lines perfectly with the highs here as well. But look at where we are. We are coming into a major pivotal level on the S&P 500. Again, right here, we're right coming into that level. And so we're just a shy away. I think it's going to drop a little bit more into the end of today into that level. But this sets up next week to be unbelievably important for the markets. Because if this breaks, in general, channels break significantly to the downside. And I just want to show you one example of this. One of my favorites is CMG, Chipotle. And if we look at Chipotle, here's a very similar channel, right? It's almost, you could, if I told you this was the spiders, you might believe it because it's the same general channel. Look at the drop that this has had from that break of the channel. And so my point is this, is that if this market can't hold this level, this goes from just a minor pullback in the market. S&P, I think, is down, 5-ish, 4-ish%. NASDAQ's down about almost 6 at this point. Again, minor considering the upside. But if we break these levels on the S&P, you start to actually get into territory where we could easily be down more than 10% on the market. And one thing that's confirming that is go to your VIX, right? We always look at the VIX to notice what fear is doing. And actually, interestingly enough, this was my wedge pattern that I was warning people. I was saying, guys, we are borderline a breakout on the chart of the VIX here. And sure enough, look at the VIX surge to the upside here, which is telling us that fear is beginning to creep in. Now, last thing I'll say is at $16.72, that's basically like a fly that's annoying you to the VIX, right? That's telling you there's a little bit of annoyance here, there's a little bit of concern, but not a lot. Once you get above 20, that's when your fear line starts to come in. That's where you start to pay attention. Once you get above 30, that's generally where the market has a tendency to actually start to get a significant bottom in it. So we're not even close to that point yet in terms of the fear index, but just something you need to watch. All right, what do you got here, buddy?
All right, one last chart here. We got the SMCI. Once you follow these videos, you know I love this chart. I've studied this chart for over a year. It's got rapid moves to it, so if you are right, you can make some good money very quickly. Anyway, this highlights one of the trades I made earlier in the week. You'll see just what I'm doing. You'll find a lot of this is repetitive. Well, it's because the markets repeat. So there's no need to reinvent the wheel. Learn your pattern so that you can make these trades on your own. What I did is I drew a trend line from the very high to the next pivot point. Then it came up to the third pivot point on Monday, price gapped up, ran straight into it, and has since, look at the power of that trend line. It has pulled it back the following 4 days that we have here. Another thing I wanted to point out and highlight is this channel, this parallel channel that we're in. This is a bearish channel that has been forming over the past couple weeks. You'll notice, again, with the numbers, we hit it once, we hit it twice, we didn't hit it a third time, so it still leaves an option that it can come up and hit it. We've now hit in the bottom side once, kissed it, but then this is an actual hit too, and now third time we've gone through that line. We actually closed right on the line yesterday, so just like Gareth was saying with the spiders and the SMH, we are right now at a pivotal point in this chart. Which way is it going to go? If it does continue up to the upside, you're going to see a lot of resistance right here on this downsloping trend line, and then the very next spot is going to be right here. I really doubt it gets up that high unless we have a major turn in the markets and have a big upswing, but what's likely going to happen is maybe a retrace up to this trend line and then another drop back down if it doesn't fall right now.
Yeah, amazing. Really, I mean, it's been a wild week of trading, right?
Right.
So,
it's been impressive.
So listen, guys, this is what it's all about, is when volatility hits, traders, really, this is where we make our bread and butter, and where volatility creates opportunity. And I know a lot of people are scared about when markets fall, but it really does breed opportunity and potential trade setups. So what I would just say to you guys is get educated, right? I think that's the biggest thing. Fear is so pervasive. Once it comes in, people freak out, and they usually do the wrong thing at the wrong time, just like greed. But once you learn the charts and do what you're doing, what I'm doing, it really takes it to another level where you don't have to be scared. You just know it's based on numbers. It's a numbers game at that point. And you just want to make sure you're winning 7, 8 times out of every 10, and the numbers take care of themselves.
Yeah, the education gives you the confidence. It allows you to see things like this in the charts so that you can then make the next move and start making money. When stock markets are going way up or way down, just like Gareth said, we need and breed off the volatility. Once we have that volatility, we can pounce on the opportunities that present themselves because we can see these levels on the charts. It means everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that note, just a reminder, Drew, thank you for stepping in, buddy. Ben is off on vacation today, so hopefully he's having a great time. He'll be back next week, but Drew's going to be a staple here at Verified Investing. He's a great trader. He's trading on our trading floor, and really it's going to be just a growing team of great traders to help retail investors out there learn how to trade the market.
I'm very happy to be here and grateful to be here. Thank you for this opportunity.
Wonderful. And we end this show by saying together, you seen it?
Yep.
And that's the bottom line.